I wish a very good day to all those who are hearing me. As we already completed the first chapter, then we are moving to the second chapter, from hunting gathering to growing food. It is the second chapter of the 6th standard textbook history under NCERT. So let's talk about earliest people and why they moved, etc. The earliest human beings, or the first human beings, were on Earth before 2 million years ago itself. As we already said about this in the first chapter, they were hunters and gatherers. They were hunting or gathering food from the forest when they need food. And they moved from one place to another. Why they moved like that? As they are hunters and gatherers, when they are gathering food from the forest, like the food means it may be roots, vegetables, fruits, etc. When they are taking the food from the forest, there is a chance of they have eaten all available food in one place. When it is finished in one place, they have to move to another place in search of food or in search of fruits, vegetables, roots, and all other eatable things. And another reason for their movement is when animals move, hunters had to follow them. They were hunting animals like small prey for meeting their food requirements. So when the animals move from one place to another, they have to follow them. And another reason is in search of water in dry seasons. As the living being need water to survive, humans also required water. As we already said in the first chapter, ancient people lived near riverside. They were living in the banks of river, like as we already mentioned it is as in the banks of Narmada, the banks of Ganga, and the banks of Indus. And when the dry season comes, in some rivers there will not be water, as in the winter and in summer there is a chance of drying water. So they have to move from one place to another in search of water. Some rivers are perennial and some may be seasonal. Perennial rivers will be there will be water throughout the year, but in seasonal rivers or seasonal water ponds, lakes, in such things there will not be water in a particular season, or there will be water only in a particular season. These were the reasons for their movement. And when we are talking about the stone tools, or how do we know about these people? How do we know about these earliest people? As I am talking now, or we have textbook to read about them, how these people founded them? Actually, the information about the ancient people is found by archaeologists. They found various tools used by these hunters and gatherers. There were tools of stone, wood, and bone, and in which stone tools have survived the best. They used stone tools as well as bone tools to cut meat and bone, and to scrape bark, and to chop wood. They used this wood to they used this wood as a firewood, and wood is also used to make huts and tools. And they also use this stone tools to make arrows using this tool. As they were hunters, they need arrows, so they made use of stone tools at that time. And next question, where these earlier people lived? Many sites of this evidence of hunters and gatherers received is from near banks of rivers or where there is water. Near we can find many sites. From this map, we can find various places or various sites archaeologists found where there is an evidence of hunters and gatherers. In the map we can see in Kashmir there is a site which is called Busaho, and in Pakistan it shows a site Mehergarh. There was a civilization itself. We will be moving to this after, in this chapter itself. And in Madhya Pradesh it is Bhimbedka. Bhimbedka is from Bhimbedka we received the evidence of Old Stone Age, and it shows Kurnool caves in Andhra Pradesh, from where we received the evidence of use of fire. And where they lived near riverside in they chose to rock shelters for their staying, and they stayed where good stones are available. They chose the places where good stones are available, and when they were living in these caves, they made paintings of wild animals, down, etc. We can find paintings from a rock shelter in many places. Example, there are paintings are there in Madhya Pradesh and in southern Uttar Pradesh. These include the paintings of wild animals down, which is drawn with great accuracy and skill. And as I already said, there is an evidence of use of fire in Kurnool caves. When we are talking about names and dates, the archaeologists divided the earlier, archaeologists called the earlier age it as Paleolithic Age, means in which time the people or human beings used stone as their tool, main tool. We can call it a Stone Age also. They called it as Paleolithic Age. The word Paleolithic is derived from two Greek words, paleo and lithos. Paleo means old and lithos means stone. Symbol, Old Stone Age. The Paleolithic Age is divided into three: Lower Paleolithic Age, Middle Paleolithic Age and Upper Paleolithic Age. Paleolithic Age is an Old Stone Age. And in this Paleolithic Age, 99% of human history is covered because it starts from 2 million years ago from present and to about 12,000 years ago. It's a very long period and it covers 99% of human history. After that, there were some changes in environment. Up to 12,000 years ago, the condition of the human beings were same. They used stones as tools, and which was different from the Neolithic and Mesolithic age, and there were no such important changes happened in that time. But what made a sudden change in the people? Actually, there were some environmental changes, and it made the reason for a new beginning. It was Mesolithic age. It comes from 12,000 years ago to 10,000 years ago from present. And the main change was the stone tools found during this period are generally tiny and they are called as microliths. These tools are handles of bone and it can be used as sickles and saws. And the older variety of stone tools also continued to use in this period. And what is Neolithic Age? After this Paleolithic and Mesolithic Age, the Neolithic Age stage comes. It was about 10,000 years ago from present. We can talk about Neolithic Age later. And as I already said, there were a changing environment. Major changes had happened before 12,000 years ago. And the climate shifted to warm conditions. It made the reason for the development of grassland. And when there is a development of grassland, it was a reason for the increase in the number of deer, goat, cattle, etc. because they are depending this grassland for their food. And hunters were hunting deer, goat, cattle, and when these type of animals increased and hunters started following them, they learned their food habits and breeding season. It made a reason for them to think about herding, and when they came to know they can get milk from them, and when they can use these animals for meat at any time, it may be the reason for the starting of herding. And we are moving to the beginning of farming and herding. The beginning of farming was like after the environmental changes, there was starting of grain-bearing grasses naturally grown in many places. They were like the barley and rice. First, people collected this one, and they learned its growing time, and when they ripe, they started growing their own. It was the first time they started cultivating something for their use. The first tamed animal of human is dog. It is not the same dog as today. It is the wild ancestor of the dog. And when we are talking about domestication, animals, plants, etc. are divided into two as domestic animals, wild animals. We are using from our childhood itself, domestic animals, wild animals. Why there is a change came? The domestication started before 12,000 years ago. People started growing plants and looking after these animals. They selected gentle animals for the look after, and the generations of these gentle animals became very different from those of wild animals. And these were the cases of plants also. They selected plants which is suitable for them, and they used the seeds of these plants for cultivation. And there came a difference between the wild plants and the domestic plants. The teeth and horns of wild animals and domestic animals is very different, because the food habit of the wild animals is very different from the food habit of domestic animals. The domestic animals is eating what the human beings are giving to them. So the difference is same. Not same. This is not same. Wheat and barley was the first cultivated plants, and sheep and goat are the first animals used for domestication or looked after by the people. There comes a question of a new way of life. Plants need time to grow. When people started cultivating or when people started agriculture, they had to stay in one place. They had to look after the plants, they had to water it, and they had to harvest it, and they had to store the seeds from that, and they had to wait till the grain ripened. So it made a reason to stay in one place. They made clay pots and woe baskets or pits into the ground to store the seed and food. And they started living as villagers in one place because they have to, as I already said, they have to stay in one place. It is the reason for the development of villages. When we are talking about storing animals, animals multiply their own. They provide milk and meat. When it is understood by the people, human beings, they thought about storing animals because animals is a food. Animals gives food whenever they require, as milk or as meat. The animals reared is a store of food itself. When we are talking about finding out about the first farmers and herders, the archaeologists received evidence from a number of places about farmers and herders where they lived. All over subcontinent, Kashmir, in East India, in South India, everywhere the farmers and herders were there. And from there, they received evidence of plants and animal bones and burned grains also. And they identified a number of grains and different animals. From this, they can understand the human beings at that time was cultivating different crops, and they were looking after animals. And there is a traces of huts in Bursahom in Kashmir, and it's a pit house. As I already said, for storing seeds, they need place. And inside these houses or inside these huts, there were cooking hearths. Depending on whether they will be cooking inside of these huts or houses or outside. And when we are talking about Neolithic Age, it started about 10,000 years ago. In this Neolithic Age, they used polished tools to give fine cutting edge, mortars and pestles used for grinding. In this period, they used the tools of bones also. And decorated earthen pots for storage and cooking also used, and the evidence of this and the broken pieces of decorated earthen pots are received from various places. There is a proof of they started weaving clothes in this time. When we are talking about the development on this year's basics, the whole world is not developed at once. In one place there were hunters and gatherers, and at the same time another place people were developing in another area of this subcontinent. There were people who developed and started developing and began agriculture, and some were people who started living in villages. And somewhere people are using hunting, gathering in one season, and they were using agriculture for food in different season. As I already said about Mehergarh, it is a place in Pakistan near Bolan Pass. There is a civilization actually. First, in the history of people, in that place, people learned to grow barley and wheat, rear sheep, and goat. The earliest villages was there. Many animal bones were found here. The animals include sheep, goat, etc. The specialty of houses in that area is it is rectangular in shapes, and it has 4 or more compartments. When we are talking about their dying, these are things about living of these people. When they are talking about dying and burial, when people die, they buried they gave respect to their dead bodies, and they buried with gods along with them. It may be in the belief that these gods will be act as a food, or these gods will serve as food in the next world. From this we can find that they believed in the next world after death. And when all these things are happening, in somewhere else the things were something like 100 years ago. Actually, the cave paintings in France was discovered 100 years ago. But it's made before 20,000 and 10,000. It is made between 20,000 and 10,000 years ago. As I already said, the different things were happening in different places at the same time. Wild animals. In these caves, there were wild animals painted in bright color. The color is same today also. Colors from ochre or iron ore and charcoal were used by them. We are talking about a Neolithic site in Turkey. It is a cattle hung. We can find, or archaeologists discovered, flint for this cattle hung is took from Syria, and shells is took from Mediterranean Sea. As it is very distant places, how it reached them? At that time there were no bus and train facilities was there. These things reached there as backpack of animals or people. That's all about the second chapter. If you like watching the video, please like and subscribe my channel. Thank you. And I will be uploading the next chapter of 6th standard textbook.